Thomas in Atlanta, Georgia. You're live with Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. I had a comment and I had a question.
Sure.
I'm trying real hard not to miss one of them. But as for the question, I was thinking, what is the Atheist Community of Austin? And I wish I still had my device on me so I could research it real quick. But there would be certain views that the ACA holds, correct?
Yes, the ACA mission statement is positive atheism and the separation of religion and government is our general overhead umbrella. And we have different shows and different community projects that we do.
And in the
help
past, a few years ago, the ACA released a list of position statements on issues.
You can actually go to the ACA website and see the full list of positions.
But were you bringing that up to refer to a specific position, or did you want to talk about like groups and positions?
It pertains to the question.
Sure.
Would it also be like certain like times where you'll get together and talk about like the positions y'all hold on anything?
I mean, we're regular people.
Yeah, we like to talk to each other. Do you mean like officially?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
in the past there was a vote to release. I think
the board wanted to be pretty clear on a set of positions that the ACA took, and so they voted and ratified it. Now, if someone wants to change it or make a modification, they can work on doing that and present it, and we can move from there. But
we haven't recently is the answer, but it's a possibility. If that helps.
What's up?
Okay. As far what my question is, well, as for now, the only atheist community that I know of is the ACA, Atheist Community of Austin, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, as time goes on and more communities pop up, that would be something comparable to, I mean, what you would call churches. Y'all stand on the same side when it comes down to whether or not if you believe in the God, and there's also certain views that y'all kind of share.
Well,
tend to share. So
y'all group together.
So, I mean, to be clear, I think based on the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you know this, that the only thing that makes a person an atheist is that they don't believe in a God. However, as far as people that will call themselves atheists and get together and form communities, you tend to see some patterns there, particularly in the United States. There are positions that are held on social issues, like this hat.
Or a more concrete example is if you took a look at the primary positions, I just pulled them up. It's church-state separation and human rights. I was active in a church, and those positions were much more tight and much more involved on making sure that we had control of things. Church-state separation protects all of us, and so does human rights. I don't know if you would call that a church. It feels kind of disingenuous because we don't require that people tithe, and we don't say that there is life after death. We don't talk about, supernatural or sell people on claims. We don't have, that kind of, peace. We don't have ritual. We don't have, specific, prayers, and we don't have a set of doctrines that, you can't ask questions about. Like, it feels like there's so much that saying that it's just like a church would kind of, it just doesn't feel like.
When you said it seems like
it or not, but I have been in a church also to where they don't subscribe to a supernatural God, and they don't also have rituals. And I mean, of course they accept donations, but I mean, they don't pass around a collection plate.
Yeah.
Did you go to a UU church or a Unitarian Universalist church? Although I think they do rituals.
To a degree.
No. I mean,
the specific church doesn't matter. When you said that would be like churches, can you elucidate, elaborate on that?
Because I was just thinking, because churches differ so much, and to be a church, I mean, as for what I see now, like you don't even have to subscribe to, an almighty, powerful God. Like you don't even have to, something like that. So I mean, like, what would really be holding other places?
Do you mean from
to be different, other than that you don't apply to? I'm losing the words, but like you don't apply to be looked at upon that way.
Sure. To be clear, when you're talking about what it
doesn't want to be looked. The ACA doesn't want to be looked at as a church, but there's some churches that are just, I guess, kind of as atheistic as the ACA.
Well, let's take a look. I mean, I've got the Merriam-Webster definition for church. Number one, a building for public and especially Christian worship. What do we worship? I mean, even if it's not Christian worship, what do atheists worship?
I'm not saying that they worship anything, but...
That's the definition of a church. Let's go to the second definition, just in case the first one didn't match up, right? The clergy or officialdom of a religious body.
So, to be clear, when you're saying what, like, in part of your statement, you said, like, oh, it doesn't seem to take that much to be a church, and then you started to talk about what would stop other groups from being looked at that way. When you're saying what it takes to be a church, do you mean legally? Like, because there's, it's a tax certification as well. What did you mean by that?
To be looked at as a church, saying that y'all are a group that shares certain beliefs, and if one person in your group does something negative or positive, you're supposed to go ahead and reflect and be like, did my group teach that? Would that make me want to be in that group more or less?
Well, lots of associations, particularly ones that are a community that have any kind of joint identity, are like that. So any social organization or even a sports team, right? Like, lots of people continue to support, insert your favorite team here, even after one of the players or the coach commits a DUI or is discovered to be committing, domestic violence. But when you say looked at like a church, do you mean looked at as, oh, if you're a member of this community, of this group, we'll say, Group A, if you're in Group A and a person in Group A, oh, they're this really popular member of Group A, everyone knows them, and then they beat their spouse, and that reflects on the group? Are you talking about how an individual in a group reflects on the image of the group? Is that what you mean when you say looked at like a church?
I was talking about how people in your group do something, and that's supposed to reflect on you as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, something that you had said, I think it's been a while. It might have even been 2 months ago, how you talking about somehow churches would treat certain people as if they're not people, and you had clarified and said, talking about gay people, how certain churches would treat gay people as if they're not people. And then I was thinking like, well, yeah, you obviously said that, to get me to think of, well, let me not put words in your mouth, but...
No. I remember you talking about that. I just don't know where you were going with it. Go ahead and finish.
Oh, but I felt like you said that it made me think of, do I still want to associate with that church if they have that practice? And then I was thinking of, well, I don't have anything negative to say about, any of ACA's beliefs, but if in the future if some terrible things, come about, could we just say, oh, hey, we're atheists, that, there's some terrible practices that they have?
Well, actually, that's a really good question, and that's a really nuanced question that I know we both have answers to. Do you want to give yours, or do you want me to give mine first, Jamie?
Are you going to use a specific example from recent events?
No, I'm not. You go ahead.
I feel like I shouldn't.
I will then.
Right.
So recently we had a person who was...
Wait, are you using an example?
I'm going to use Lawrence Krauss. So there was an article that came out in what was the organization?
No,
it wasn't BuzzFeed.
BuzzFeed News.
Was it? Yeah. That Lawrence Krauss, who is a pretty famous atheist speaker.
The Atheist and Science Community.
Atheist and mathematics specifically. He wrote Fear of Physics. It was, it was a really great math communicator. Was also a creepy McCreeperson and creep to creep. And,
which is Thomas may not. in the same way that there's a wave through our country of like, this person is committing sexual assault, we don't like them, Lawrence Krauss.
The Me Too kind of movement has come through atheist communities. And really, the important thing for us is that we're not trying to rally behind somebody so that we can prop up the larger organization. The only thing we hold truly is, as atheists, we don't accept the claim that a God exists. Everything else on top of that has to do with secular humanism, skepticism, and those intersecting views on the way that we approach the world. And so if somebody is not acting in that way, then you can say, that person's, I really disagree with that. But I wouldn't say, oh, you really screwed up. You must not be an atheist. You gotta believe in God, don't you? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really make any sense.
We don't say that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not a true atheist. If you don't hold the position that a God exists, then you technically are an atheist. So I actually am very, very proud of the idea that we can go in and not hold people so high on pedestals. If you actually go and listen to things that Tracy Harris talks about, she's talked about it on Godless Bitches for sure, was not holding people to this high degree that you wind up idolizing somebody and...
not thinking of people as gods or superheroes that you should think of as greater than yourself, right? Like there are humans that do good things, but they're still humans.
Yeah, except for Jamie and I, we're awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, well, maybe I should move it to sports since you brought that up. I mean, maybe a person would be
actually real quick, Thomas. Before we go on, can I just real quick? So I don't mean to cut across you. I think there's some delay on the phones, so that we may be talking over each other a little bit more than usual. But what I was going to say is, so after Revelations. And conviction, right? Like, Bill Cosby was convicted on 3 counts of sexual assault this week. After that and after Revelations, I wouldn't be a member of the Bill Cosby Appreciation Society, right? And so if there was a group that was like, that Bill Cosby founded the We Like Funny Jokes Society, and he was president of it. And then this happened, and the trial came up, and he was convicted. That would make me reflect on whether or not I wanted to be a member of that society, right? Like that group. If he was ejected by the group, and the group said, we have nothing to do with that, here are our core values, I might consider that. But one of the things that I would appreciate from a group is not to, so groups often will, metaphorically circle the wagons and defend a member, right? So if there had been a We Like Funny People founded by society as founded by Bill Cosby, hypothetically, that had, as throughout this entire thing, all the way up to the conviction said, no, it's all fake news, it's the Chinese conspiring against him or whatever, that would entirely sour me, and I would not be a member for a single day if I'd heard that. Right? Even if everything they said about funny people or, we want to feed the hungry, if they also said, yes, we're going to defend someone who's now been convicted of sexual assault, I would say, I'm going to go feed the hungry with some other organization. I'm just trying to address the point of the importance of an organization and its values and individuals that do bad things that reflect on it, if that helps the conversation forward at all.
Well, you had gave me a satisfying answer of if the leader or who you was looking admirably upon had did something bad. But I mean, what if just one of the random members in the group?
So
does that hold any weight?
It would kind of depend on what they did that was bad, right? So I've been in.
So let's put it something extremely terrible, like thousands of people in one day, they had killed, but it's just a random member of a group, not essential to the group. If they did something horrible, would that make you rethink being a part of that group?
I guess it depends on whether or not the views of that group contributed to the violence. Yeah. Like, if that group was like, hey, we're dedicated to slaughtering thousands of people, then yeah, that group deserves to be blamed. Right, and there are groups who do that, and there are groups who advocate that. And so if it was that kind of group, yeah. But if it was the...
Well, I mean...
If it was the, bird watching society, in the local community, no. If that guy bowled It doesn't mean that I'm going to say bowling is the cause for all of this.
Okay.
So it really just depends on what that group holds.
Yeah. So I think to piggyback on what Eric said, if there's a group, right? We'll say you wanted to go with sports teams. I think as an example.
Now you've been able to communicate and like tell me answers that communicated well.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I just brought that up because just kind of like with the churches I have been to, it's more or less like teaching parents, to give attention to their kids, and so on and so forth. It's basically just kind of like how to be better people, and very little of it is, worship.
Well,
so it's not too much different from. I don't know of any place where like you be teaching adults how to improve their life other than church, but
so yeah,
that's kind of what it mostly is.
In response to that, churches function as like a community hub, right? Like it's a building that's there, and everyone knows where it's like. Well, and looking back, and
I actually have to disagree with you. Have you talked to a CrossFitter? Or
a person that does CrossFit.
A person who does CrossFit, or a person who vapes, or a person who, subscribes to, Bikram yoga, or is, ethically vegan and just wants you to know how terrible you are and the poisons that you're putting into your body.
Vegans attack, Eric.
Those are all non-religious people who think that they have a solid handle on the way you should be behaving, and they're not churches, right?
Yeah, and the same thing I was saying, like if just one random, if one random person in the group does something terrible, I mean, it does make me second guess myself, but I guess that's only because I was trained, like, it shouldn't matter if, a random patriot says Terry sack tomorrow, because it's just like, well, as a patriot.
You're cutting in and out.
We're losing you, man.
Real quick. Just to clarify, do you mean fan of the New England Patriots or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I was going to say.
I mean, unless the Patriots have unless the Pats are worse than I think they are, then it's probably not their fault. But if they did advocate for violence, if they did advocate for something that was truly terrible and then a player did commit that, we're absolutely going to turn around and hold, that group to some level of responsibility, right? So I think that if somebody stands up, especially, there's a lot of religiously motivated violence, and so we can look at people who say directly, I did this because it says that if a man lieth with another man, the penalty is death. If it says, that kind of thing, and they're giving that as their reasoning, I'm not going to not believe them.
That's why they did it.
And I'm not saying that their church is fully responsible. It might be. I don't know how bad their church is. But what I will say is that you should, listen and investigate to make sure that you don't have other people that are becoming radicalized to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and
so as were you referring to cheating when you brought up the New England Patriots?
I don't know.
Well, it's not just me that talks a lot. Boom. That's a okay. Sorry, I think we're doing well.
Oh, and just with the final thing, and then I guess I'll leave off, is something I heard from. I guess I can't say the channel's name because I don't think you're associated, but they brought up something where they said it's false that there are theists that believe in God but not all for it. And I was going to tell you a way how I'm pretty sure there's plenty of theists that exist and are not all for the God. And I was going to say basically like maybe a child who like loses faith that they could ever have their parents' love. So there could be someone like that. They know the parent, exists and may love other people, but may not love them. So in the same way, like there could be a theist who just think that,
God doesn't.
They can never be good enough for God or whatever, and God may never love them. And then you would have a theist that believes in God, but ain't, you know, bending over backwards, you know,
to do anything
about, you know, worshiping.
Yeah. Thomas, can I ask you a question? Have you seen the movie God's Not Dead, the first one?
Jamie, why do you hate God?
He took everything from me.
And we totally stole that from Mr. Atheist, too. Love you, Mr. Atheist.
Get well soon.
Yeah,
but to be clear, the reason I brought that up is there's a spoiler warning for God's Not Dead. So if you want to watch that gem of a film, rock of a film, cover your ears for a second. But the main, air quotes, atheist character turns out to not be an atheist. It's like, why do you hate God? And it's like, because he did these things. It's like, that's a person that believes that there's a God that did bad things.
Yeah.
So theist, but not a fan of the God.
You're definitely talking to two people who absolutely 100% understand and agree with that sentiment, because we don't define to Christians what their beliefs are. That's ridiculous. That's creating straw men to attack. What we do is we wait for them to call in and then tell us what they believe so that we can talk about that. Because you don't know what one person versus another person, you know, your example is perfect. If that person called in, we would want to know why they think that what they think, not whether or not they hold, you know, if they said they were a biblical literalist, everything is divinely inspired, then we could get into it. But we
wouldn't
have
say
to go person by person.
Can a donkey really talk? Like, lots of people would say, I'm a Christian, would worship all the time, and would say, well, no, it's a metaphor.
For what?
I don't know. Or it's an old story or something.
Yeah.
I don't have to defend
all
it.
Right.
Actually, Thomas, before you hop off, you said you were responding to something that was said on a YouTube channel, but you didn't want to say it. Are you willing to be put back on hold and tell our call screener what it is real quick, in case we want to?
I just thought like I wouldn't be allowed to say the name. I thought that'd be like, you know, unallowed shout out. But
no. We'll put you on hold so you could tell our call screener.
Yeah.
We want to check it out. I mean, we don't want to.
We don't want to advertise for another channel that we don't know. So thank you for that. But yeah, and then also this has been a fantastic call. You should stay in touch with us. Email at Talk Heathen. On the Facebook, we're Talk Heathen. You know our Twitters probably.
Yeah, we say it enough.
Yeah, we say it every 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
Give it a shout. And
I'd love to stay in touch.
Yeah.
You're a fantastic person to talk to.
all right.
Hey, cool.
All right, sounds good. Thank you,
Thanks.
Thomas.